To order.
For a little while.
Commissioner Stewart, if you will, please lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Please stand and join us. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight humbling our hearts, God. Lord, we have so much to thank you for sparing our county in this storm that we just had. Lord, I thank you for that. Lord, I thank you that you provided us grace and mercy, even though we had damage, God, we have nothing to even close to what's happened to the surrounding counties west of us, Lord. I just ask that you bless those people there. Most are hopeless, but God, we know that you're in control. And Lord, you never leave us or forsake us. And we ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. You have several ways to participate with us. We have citizens to be heard at the beginning and also at the end. You can choose either one of those to speak. And if you will, when you come up, give us your name and address so the folks watching at home can hear it as well. You can also speak on each individual agenda item. Please fill out a speaker card with Miss Patty for each item that you would like to speak on. I believe we're going to put the Red Cross in during our awards and presentations section, and we also have, is Randall here, Emergency Management Director?
Yeah, Randall's here.
Oh, there he is right there. You hide behind that pole. I didn't think you'd fit like that.
I've been on a diet.
Okay, very good. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the, sorry.
I have to pull item 1.
Item number 1, the minutes, okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Randy.
With respect, Jerry, I'd like to pull your item off the agenda. I really don't think this is the appropriate time to be dealing with it. I understand that it's an important issue, but there has been a lot of damage, and this is a serious issue for a lot of people. So I would respectfully ask, it's not a crisis, if we could at least...
Can you tell me why?
Just because a lot of people aren't able to attend this board meeting that are very passionately concerned about this on both sides. The other 95% of the people in this county don't care one way or the other about this. So if you at least put it off to the next meeting when people that are concerned about it can get here.
I'll put it off to the next meeting.
Okay,
Thank
so we will table item number 15. Any other changes?
Yes, we'd like to add on under general business, there'll be 3 items that are related to the storm that we'd like to get motions on for the board.
And that includes a discussion regarding debris monitoring and removal within the cities, the use of the county's emergency line of credit, and a potential waiver of building permit fees for residential structures relating to storm damage repairs.
Very good. 3 items under general business. Any further changes? Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay. All right. We will start out with Mr. Hugh Taylor. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a lot of important things going on, and to really take the time. And actually, I wouldn't be here tonight with the exception of things were said when I was leaving by Mr. Merritt and Mr. Moore last time. So I'm here because of you all. Mr. Merritt said what I talked about, his domestic violence incidents was political. I hold in my hand a political document. It's last year's domestic violence resolution, which I'd like to talk about a little bit. Mr. Moore not the same as Mr. Kavanaugh. And Mr. Kavanaugh was never placed under arrest for anything during his confirmation hearings. So, how about it? I don't know why you did it to try to get the last word in. I mean, goodness, you got all night or debate me, but anyway, this document, by the way, has expired as of the 2nd of October. I'm really waiting to see, number one, if it will be renewed or a new one will be signed. Number two, if you all are going to vote your conscience. No one on this board has spoken up. Not a peep from any of you. And rather than addressing me, I'm not the cause of Mr. Merritt's pain. Mr. Merritt is the cause of
You're
this.
continuing to bring it on.
You're out of order, sir. Mr. Thomason.
Please continue.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Can I get a couple of minutes back?
I don't think he took a couple minutes. Keep it rolling.
All right. It is political. Who do you want on your board? What kind of person do you want on your board? Who do you trust to have on your board? You know, you criticize me when one of you all should have taken Mr. Merritt aside many years ago. We move here for the nature. We move here for the churches. We move here for community and for some spirit of community, which is evident over this past weekend. We're all trying to do what we can do. But this expired agreement, and I say this, and why do I say this? Why am I here? I'm here because of you all tonight. There's a lot more important people here than me, and there's a lot more important things going on. This election is important, and it is political. Domestic violence is endemic in our nation, state, and county, according to last year's resolution. The children in violent homes are also in danger of victimization, likely to succumb to drug abuse, truancy, and emotional disturbances, violent and unlawful behavior in later life than children raised in an abuse-free home. And domestic violence is both a violation of an individual's privacy, security, and humanity, and is a crime which impacts society as a whole. Then we conclude that perpetrators of domestic violence must be held accountable for their actions. In the county of Wakulla.
Can you bring it into a close, Mr. Taylor?
Yeah. Why do I say this? Because Mr. Merritt does not belong on this board. Should not be reelected. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir.
And I say again, that was political. You had 8 years to bring that forward. You choose to bring it forward 3 weeks before an election. You are nothing more than political.
All right, let's move on. All righty, that ends our citizens to be heard. Now we'll hear from Mr. Randall Taylor.
Welcome to election season in Wakulla.
Sorry about that, guys.
Thank you, sir, for all your hard work over the past week.
Thank you, sir. I want to give you just a little brief on what's going on and what happened. About 40 miles more to the east, and we'd have been in the teeth of the storm. We were very lucky in our our fellow counties to the west are not. They're suffering greatly still on. What we've done since the storm hit here in Wakulla, we had a great system set up with our emergency responders and our county road and bridge department. We cleared the major roadways within about 2 hours after the wind broke down enough that we could get out on the road. Everything without a power line was cleared off of major roadways, allowing emergency vehicle access to all communities within 2 hours, and then about 4.5 hours later we had the secondary roads cleared. Everything without a power line. That is, we can't do anything with the power lines. So our emergency staff done very well, and our road and bridge section done very well also, and I'd like to give them a thanks. Right now, we've ordered the DRC, that's the Disaster Recovery Center, and the state's working on getting it down here to it so we can support our people. We've ordered additional law enforcement to assist in the stricken areas so that we can keep these roadblocks going. We can't hold the National Guard here for an extremely long time. For the state, they're the most expensive asset they have in as far as a human element. FEMA's canvassing the area. They came in very, very early in this process, and they're canvassing the area trying to register people for disaster assistance. If you haven't seen them and you see them riding around and you have something wrong, if you've lost food, they need to register. If they've lost property, they need to register.
Food?
Food.
Is your refrigerator, shut off?
Yes, from the
FEMA
power
wants to know
down. FEMA wants to know.
Wow.
Okay, they're here to help, believe it or not. They had some run-ins with some Wakulla County citizens that didn't believe that at first, but I think we're trying to get them convinced. I want to be very thankful and let everyone know that we've had various faith-based groups in our area, and they have done a tremendous job. Everything from helping people carry their soaked furniture out of their home and saving their most valuable possessions to raking yards. I passed by one residence and they were out raking our citizens' yards, and these are people that's not necessarily from here. They just come in to help. I want to thank them. Southern Baptist Convention has a mass care kitchen set up in Lake Ellen Baptist Church. They're feeding everyone in Wakulla County that wants a hot breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So anyone who needs to go there can sit down and eat a very good meal. They also do their disaster assistance program, in where they go in and muck out everyone's house that needs it, and it don't cost a dime. They won't accept a donation at that point. They'll go in and cut your sheetrock out, remove the insulation and everything wet in the home, and their goal is to get the home dry and get those people back in it as quick as possible.
They won't do that for commercial, though, will they?
I'm sorry?
They don't do that for commercial?
I don't believe so, no, sir. They're more focused on people's homes and getting them moved back home. We had 14 homes with trees on them during the storm, and we had numerous lines down calls. Talcott has still got 1,973 out customers in Wakulla County.
One of them's right here.
And
No special privileges.
He's going to give an update, yep.
and Duke has one.
Duke has one.
I think that's the first time Duke has really come out in front of mine. I think they're holding that one until Talcott's just about there, because they get in a race every time. And
Well, Danny Collins did tell me to tell Talcott that they're 100%, so
they are 100%.
they're at 100%.
But they still have
water tracing.
They still have one down. I think they're waiting to push the button on that one just before Talcott finishes. 14 homes. I read that already. I apologize. We've got the Salvation Army going into communities. They're going into the communities with their canteen vehicles and providing hot meals to anyone who can't come out. Red Cross is also doing that. I spoke with Red Cross on the way here, and we're going to arrange and schedule the mills to where they're not in the same place at the same time. We started out with 92 National Guard that helped us with our search and rescues. That means they helped us go house to house. And within a couple hours, we were able to clear all the houses in the disaster areas to make sure no one was pinned in, suffering, or even deceased. We still have 27 National Guards still in here helping us at our road checkpoints and also handing out at the pod. That's a point of distribution where we're giving out water. Oh, am I timed out?
Keep going.
Keep on going.
Where we're distributing water and emergency meals. They're not the great, but they can heat up, and it's best. It's better than a cold cup of chili. That's about all I have. I'll take questions if you have any for me.
Good response, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, going to the EOC before the storm, they were organized, ready, they were prepared, so it's a good job.
Thank you.
And it appeared that the state was under the impression that the counties weren't taking it seriously, but we were just prepared. Thanks
Well, and we have plans.
Yeah.
We have plans in place for almost every disaster, man-made or natural.
Mm-hmm.
And no one knows their counties
Right.
better than the people in their county.
Absolutely.
And we know our times, and we know when we need to pull the trigger. And I don't want to pull. The main thing about that, Commissioner, is I don't want to pull the trigger when I don't have to, because I don't want someone evacuating, spending their money, and then having to come back and going, I'm not going to do that again. We had some people we had to rescue out of houses because of that today, or in this storm.
I think this made a believer out of a lot of people to heed
Yes,
these
sir.
warnings.
And Randall, this emergency management is an additional duty of yours, correct?
No, sir. I'm full-time.
Full-time now?
Yes, sir.
It was an additional duty at one time.
Somewhat.
You did a good job.
Thank you very much.
All right, this time, Mr. Tracy Bensley from Talquin is going to give you his latest and greatest update. Thank you.
Lonnie Raker Lane, Tracy.
Lonnie Raker Lane.
Lonnie Raker.
Tracy Bensley, I'm the general manager at Talquin Electric Cooperative. The Thursday morning after the storm had passed, Talquin had about 99% of its system down. Wakulla County was the only county where we had transmission service to our substations, other than one in southeastern Leon County. So we were able to get started on restoration in Wakulla County immediately, as opposed to the other counties where everybody had to wait. Not that we weren't repairing lines, but they just weren't seeing the lights come on. That was about 8,650 accounts that were out of service. We don't know the exact number because we lost communication during the storm. We were not able to keep our maps updated. But we do know there was only a very few services that were on, fed by our Hilliardville substation. Everything else was out. As of today, and the number I have is actually 1,975 accounts that were out, so it sounds like maybe we got two more on since the meeting started, according to the
Maybe one
emergency
more.
management.
They were there.
If we take out the locations down at the coast where we pulled meters prior to the storm, and the county is working with us and working with us very well, and I thank the county for that, on inspecting those homes before we try to re-energize, that gets us down to about 1,500 accounts that are actually out, other than those coastal accounts. So 1,975 accounts would be about 22% of our services in Wakulla County. Excluding the coastal area, we got about 17% still affected. What the information we put out to the EOCs and the public was that we would be 90% restored in Wakulla County by the end of the day Wednesday. I don't think there's any doubt that we're going to meet that goal. We're trying to beat that goal, and we said we would have 98% restored by Friday in Wakulla County, and I feel confident we will meet that goal as well.
Now, in contrast, I got the emails. What's county to our
Liberty and
Liberty
Liberty?
Nearly
100%
100%.
of Talcum customers were out of power. Every one of them.
In Liberty and Gadsden counties, and that is a combined 18,400 accounts, 100% were out, and neither one of those counties saw lights until Saturday night. That's how long it took to get the transmission restored, and that's how long it took to start seeing lights in those counties. We were actually pleased that we were able to get lights in Liberty County. If anybody's been to Liberty County,
Yes.
that was a real disaster. This was definitely a historic storm. There's no doubt about it. The damage was historic. Nobody here has seen anything like that. And our response has been far beyond anything that Talcon has ever had to do in the past. We've got about 600 people working. In Wakulla County, we have over 120 of those 600, and we will continue to work here until all those services are restored. We may begin shifting the type of crews we're working with. We've already replaced 65 broken poles. We had as of this morning, about 30 more to replace in this county. As the broken poles get replaced, we can shift to some lighter crews instead of using the construction crews. And then all those individual accounts that are out that seem to take a lot longer at the end of the storm, we'll start getting to. So.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On the meters that you pull,
yes, sir.
How many meters do you pull prior to a storm?
And I apologize for not having the exact number.
Right.
It is approximately 500.
All right. You do that because of salt water?
We do that for safety.
Safety. Why don't you move those meters up where you don't have to do that? Because let's just take Shell Point. You pull those meters maybe 2 days before the storm came in, which is fine according to your system. You do. But those people are without power 2 days before, and then probably 2 days after everybody else is without power. Why don't you move those bases up where you don't have to pull the meters?
We need the bases accessible to our personnel.
Sir?
We need the bases to be accessible to our personnel.
Wow.
If we move them up on the house, they're not going to be accessible. And we pulled those meters Tuesday afternoon. The storm came in Wednesday. We started seeing effects from that storm actually on Tuesday. As we waited as long as we could. As we were pulling the meters, the water was already coming up. I was already being sent pictures of the water starting to cover the ground while we were still out there working.
So
we waited as long as we could.
The base is probably what, 4 foot up now?
Generally speaking, about 4 feet. Yes, sir.
So you couldn't put it 6?
If we had put it, so
You got short work.
the storm surge for this storm was predicted to be up to 13 feet.
I had 12. So
even at 6 feet,
yeah.
it wouldn't have made a difference for
You
this
shut
storm.
off the main lines that feed the meters?
We shut off the lines and pull the meters because we don't want anybody connecting generators back feeding on the line while we've got certain locations that do not need
You
to be
kill the main
energized.
power then?
Yes, sir. And in this case, the overhead line going down to the coast actually suffered very little damage. What suffered the damage was the underground lines. All of our cabinets are pushed over. Some of them are destroyed. And so we've got crews down there working now to try to get the underground repaired, and the overhead is actually ready to energize.
We still prefer underground power though, up here.
So you said 90% complete by Wednesday is your projection?
By the end of the day Wednesday, that is the projection we put out on, I believe we put that out on Saturday.
What about that remaining 10%? Any rough?
We are predicting 98% by Friday.
Okay.
The remaining 2% is, it just depends on what we run into. Those individual services can take, each individual service could take a long time,
Greenland
depending on the
State
damage.
Saturday for you, Randy.
Yeah, that's right. Sunday. I'll be that 2%.
Well, and
I'll
that's
be the
probably the
2%.
ones that had their weatherheads knocked off.
A lot of them will have the weather heads pulled off
That's
the
right.
house and things like that. And then if it's not repaired by the time we get there, then we have to wait for them to get that fixed before we can reconnect
They're
those
going to be a
services.
while on Greenland Villas. It's still real bad in there. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tracy.
We appreciate your hard work, and I know our citizens do as well. They get a little stressed at this point for sure, but I think the vast majority of people see you guys out there, see you working, and we
Yes, sir.
appreciate it.
We've got some very dedicated employees. I will pass that along to them. They are working very hard,
Thank you.
as well as we've got crews in from Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, and some other parts of Florida that are in here working. So
Hopefully they know at
over
this
600
point-
people working.
Hopefully they know that if they need a meal, if they need a shower, there's people standing by that'll wash their clothes for them. So anything they need, say the word, and the community will rally to
I
them.
appreciate that. So unlike some government-type organizations, we handle all of our own logistics. That's something else we get saddled with. And for an organization our size, we don't have a lot of administrative help waiting around during storms to do the logistics. So That is a challenging part of our work, but we do get that done. We've had a lot of practice the last few years, too.
Yes.
I did resist the temptation to call Mike Green and ask him when my power will be back on.
You should call Mike Green.
I should.
Although Mike, you should not call Mike Green, actually. He suffered a death in the family. I don't know if you know.
Sorry to hear that.
His brother-in-law in near Greensboro, a tree fell on the house, and his brother-in-law passed away. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we've got employees, two that are still working, that have had situations like that. A lot of our employees have damaged houses they haven't been able to repair because they're out working. So we're dealing with all those things.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tracy.
Next, we'll hear from Miss Sharon Tyler.
That'll be fine, and then we're going to hear from Clyde.
Okay.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for letting me be here, David. Good to see you again. I'm sorry for the voice that may come or go, because as many of you know, you've been working hard too. It's been a long, almost week. One of the things we didn't talk about is the fact that when the weekend started last weekend, that we were looking at a tropical storm and not something that was almost a Cat 5. And I can't reiterate enough what Randall said about how blessed we are in this area. Many of you have had the opportunity, and I've had the opportunity to travel west, and it's a war zone. I mean, it's horrible over in Panama City, Port St. Joe, all those areas many of us, if you grew up in this area and you grew up going to our beaches and over to Panama City, it'll never be the same, or at least probably not in our lifetime. So we are very blessed. We actually, and I hate that Randall left, because I would have bragged on him a whole bunch. If he was still here, I'll do it just for you guys to know what an incredible emergency manager you have. Great partner with us, great planning. Nicole, who he says is one of his most favorite people in the world, is our disaster program manager, and she's actually over in Port St. Joe. And he said that they've got the best of the best. So, y'all got the best of the best too. I really appreciate his partnership, as we do with Talquin. Talquin and Andrew both are good partners to Red Cross. So, what we thought was going to be, I was going to come tell you that the shelter was closing today because we only had one resident in it that was going to be able to be relocated somewhere else. It's not going to happen. Yes, sorry, David, changed since we talked. There's at least 2 to 4 more people that are coming back in, and then the shelter population may grow because many people, thank goodness, evacuated and now are being able to come back home. And I'm not sure. I listened to what Randall said, but I wasn't sure if he told you that. So there's over 200 homes that are unlivable here in Wakulla County. So there's at least 200 people, and we all know that you can multiply that probably at least by 2, probably if not more. So 400 or 500 people are probably going to have to have another place to stay for a while. Many of them, this is a caring, loving community and very family-oriented, so many of them have families, and that's where they're staying as opposed to seeking shelters. We've had the last 2 or 3 years lots of opportunities to shelter, and as y'all know, we don't get a lot of population here because people do stay in their homes. Randall and I and our group will be working with so that we don't have overlap in feeding. We've been feeding at Crumbs Mini Market for the last couple of days. We've done about 1,500 meals there, but they're back open, so we want the economy coming back, and we want them getting business, so we're not going to stay there. We're going to move so that people can go in there and get patronize their business. So what we'll do is probably start more mobile feeding routes, and we'll work with Salvation Army, one of our other partners, and make sure that the county's pretty much covered. We do partner with Southern Baptist Disaster Ministry, bring them in and set up kitchens, and that's who our emergency response vehicles go to and get food, and do their feeding routes. And so we will probably use that kitchen to help feed the eastern part of Franklin County as well, because as y'all all know, 98 is going to take a whole lot of repair, and it's compromised greatly in lots of different areas. So I'll take a breath for a second and see if any of you've got any questions.
Yes.
Okay.
What number and where can somebody reach you if they need help?
Well, the easiest number is 1-800-RED Cross. That's easy. But our chapter number is 850-878-6080. David, Ralph, Randall, anybody else that wants it has my cell phone. You call. If you need anything, you know, we'll get it. But our biggest desire is to make sure there's not any unmet needs, that there's not pockets. The storm came in Wednesday. On Thursday, we happen to have our division vice president here in Tallahassee working with us, and so she and another executive came down and met with Randall and kind of toured the county to see where there were any pockets. We've got people out all over the place trying to make sure. I had literally just gotten back from Hurricane Florence the week before, and that's what we were doing up there, is trying to go and get intel. And you know, you've got a fabulous sheriff here with Jared, distant cousin of mine, by the way. So anyway, he's been real helpful. Randall's been helpful, but a lot of the times we get our best intel from the community. You know, they know that down that road, down whatever, Council Moore Road, for instance, or somewhere, there's going to be pockets of people that aren't getting services, and those are what our people are out doing. They're doing the intel to tell us that y'all know too that there's many people that aren't able to get out and about, so we want to make sure that those people, especially the ones that don't have electricity back, because it's going, you know, tomorrow will be a week if they did pull the meter, but definitely Wednesday will be a week, and that's a long time to go without water. And we know that many people, if you're on electricity, then your well doesn't work. I mean, if you don't have electricity, so we want to make sure that those people have got access to water and food. We're still very much in the response mode, but we will move into the recovery mode. And the recovery mode is more of a, all right, now that we're there, what cleanup stuff do you need? Does everybody have rakes? Do they have shovels? You know, the bulk supply that's more traditional in the recovery mode. And then those that need help will be there for the long-term recovery. I was talking to Ralph earlier today about some of the legislators are wanting to start what they're called a RAC, which is a Recovery Assistance Center. So we'll partner with them and to bring in resources, have a FEMA table, have insurance tables, have Catholic Charities, all of our regular partners that we partner with during disasters that will be there to make sure that if there's any gaps in people's recovery, we want to make sure that those gaps are filled.
Very good. Questions, comments?
Thank you.
We're working with FEMA right now to set up one of the public assistance or private assistance. I always get that wrong. Will be one of the places will be at the community center.
IA, right?
It is IA, yeah.
Assistant at community center and the recreation. We're setting up recreation department. We're setting that up now.
Okay, and we do. I don't know. Have they given you the flyers and stuff to pass out to let people know too?
You'd have to ask Randall that. We haven't gotten any.
Okay, that's.
Any of that or Brandy? No. Okay.
Okay, we really encourage, I mean, all of you guys have got, you know, you are in touch with your constituents. Encourage them to apply.
Yeah.
Because FEMA needs to know what all of the damages were, whether it's lost food, you know, whether it's that tree on the roof, whatever it is. They need to know, because that helps them get a better idea of what the scope of the damage is here in Wakulla County. So we want to make sure that they know it. And I have to tell y'all one quick thing. So we've got people literally from all over the country working with this disaster, and I can't tell you the times. Kelly and I are both local. He's a Southerner, so he knows that I've had to explain Wakulla. It's calling something. Nobody knows how to pronounce our county down here. Yeah, they do it. They kill it. But anyway, so thank you guys for what you do, because I know what you do is what'd you say?
I said I'm trying.
Well, Wakulla's pretty easy. You start talking about steam hatchie and sop choppy. Today, slop choppy. Yeah, sorry.
I still call it that.
Do you?
Give them the old Clotney River. I'm trying to get them to say old Clotney.
Well, I mean, y'all know some of our words around here are a little bit of a challenge. I'm just now getting to where I'm born and raised in Florida, and it's hard for me to say Alachua. Anyway, thank you guys. Weewa Hitchika, we got that one. All right, thank you guys.
Just call it Weewa.
Weewa, we do.
Thank you. Next. Clyde, he's going to give an update. He and Summer Pell, they and Henry West and Rocky Wild, they've been walking since Thursday and evaluating things. And Summer's the boss, but Clyde's the spokesman.
Summer should be up here talking, not me. Well, she's got all the numbers. But we've had, we started doing a damage assessment on Thursday, and then we started doing the FEMA forms and everything that we were going to do. But Sop Choppy wasn't quite as bad, but when you go down Surf Road, just when you start there at the refuge and start back, man, it had a lot of damage. Most of the damage was to most of the houses that are down on the ground.
The ones that are on pilings, they fared really, really good. Then you get back on down there close to the campground, all that stuff those houses on the bottom got tore up pretty bad. I think if I ain't mistaken, we had like 10 or 12 that were totally destroyed that we red tagged. That'll have to be taken down. And you go across the Massey Sands, same thing's over there. I thought I cut that thing off. But then we left there and we went around there to Shell Point, Spring Creek. Spring Creek got kicked bad. There was a lot of damaged homes over there, and there's a lot of red tags over there. So most of those, especially down there at the marina, the fish house, all that stuff will have to be, took down because it's
The old Spears?
Yep, it'll all have to go. And then you go around there to Shell Point. There was on Betty Taft. There's quite a few houses that are hurt pretty bad right there. We talked about mobile homes. Don't want to hear nobody talk about mobile homes anymore. That little old subdivision right there, Paradise Village, very little damage at all to any of those. They lost some carports and all, but that was basically it.
Last time when Dennis came through, I think they replaced a lot of the ones that were real low to the ground, so.
Some of them are raised up to the 3-foot FEMA rule. And I don't want to hurt Tracy's feelings, but FEMA's going to make us raise the meter cans above base flood. So all the new homes now will be on base flood, but there'll be a platform and a set of stairs. So,
Platform and stairs for each one.
It's gonna get expensive to build.
he'll have to, yeah. I mean, they're saying now nothing electrical will be below base flood. So that's the new
I
thing.
don't want to stray too far, but could they put it on a porch, for example, where the stairs are already there?
It'll have to have access to it, just like your condensing units or your generator. Everything has to be up there on the platform that you can walk around.
That you can get to.
That you can get to them, yes. We have not got to Live Oak Island, but
Good job, Jerry.
I'm hearing a lot of, yeah, that was quick, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Hear a lot of stuff on Live Oak Island got tore up, but my guys are still down yonder in Shell Point, but I've been going back, all of the meters that we tagged, that they have electricians that have checked, I've been going back there. I think I did 18 or 20 this afternoon that they wanted power hooked back up to, so we was trying to get everybody that can get power.
So what's the process? Do they have to apply for a permit for the electrician to come start the work, or they can just do it and then call for an inspection?
We went around to all the houses and we put a placard up there and told them that, no power on this house until it gets inspected by an electrician, or everything has to be fixed. Most folks came home, seen the number, called us, we told them what they had to do, they did it, and then we went back and stickered the meter.
But they don't have to come apply for a building permit to make the repair?
No, sir. Whenever they call or whenever they come up there or call the building department, we start the paperwork for a permit. Mm-hmm. We go ahead and put it in there, but as of right now, we haven't charged anybody for one, but, we may have to, whatever y'all decide or whatever goes on.
They're kind of waiting on us tonight to see if we're going to waive the fees, I think.
But we're working hard to get folks back up to power, and I'll be like the other folks were saying, there's some folks in this county that don't like inspectors, period. At all. But, if you talk to them for a minute and tell them you're trying to help them, they usually calm down. But when you first drive up, no, sir, don't want you on my property. But so far, everybody's been very nice.
You just got here and hit the ground running now. Welcome to Wakulla.
It's not the first time I did a storm. I went down south whenever Punta Gorda got tore up down there. I was down there, I worked down there, and I went to Louisiana and worked whenever they had that bad storm over there. So it's not the first one, but it's close. Mm-hmm. To see the houses tore up like they're tore up.
Yeah. Very good.
Very good.
Questions, comments? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Clyde. Next is Miss Brandy King. She's going to give you an update on our debris removal.
Yes, we activated our debris monitor and removal contracts, and we had a meeting today at 1:30 to get organized. We have issued notice to proceed to them. They have 48 hours to mobilize 25% of the resources required to perform the task. So Wednesday afternoon, they'll be back with trucks. There are some selected neighborhoods and areas that are already ready to have their debris picked up, and I'm going to work with the road department to identify those. They may get picked up at the end of this week, but we're looking at most likely next week before we start making passes through the county and picking things up. We're going to blast out every bit of information that we can to Facebook, on our website, to keep citizens aware of what the timing is going to be. So we're really going to have to communicate closely with the road department and our debris monitors.
If we have to, Dave, can we rent some flashing signs and put out there to tell people, debris pick up in your area is this date or something?
We own one. We'll check to see about getting some others.
Rent 4 or 5 if we have to. I mean, that's not a huge expense. Is it Crowder Golf is the contractor?
It's Jimmy Crowder Excavation and Omni Construction. We actually activated 2. We may get to a situation where we only use one or the other, but we wanted to put them both on notice. We will be issuing a graphic that identifies for citizens how their debris needs to be separated. We want them to have vegetative separated from construction debris, and certainly food spoilage is going to the landfill at this time. So we'll be issuing some guidance that shows everybody how they need to have their items separated. White goods, appliances are their own category, so we may have citizens see their vegetative debris get picked up and they may leave behind an appliance because it's a different truck. So we're going to try to put out as much of that information as we can as fast as possible. If everybody can look on the website and Facebook, and we'll get it rolling. So sometime the beginning of next week is when, in theory, we should start. And we're still working on the zones of the county and where we're going to start the pickup at. We're still in discussion on that, but we'll have more information hopefully towards the end of the week, but we'll have them here in the county Wednesday afternoon.
Please remember the people that don't do Facebook or don't do internet.
I'm one of them, so
One of them too. So
thank goodness I work here. But yeah, and we'll try to get it out any other way.
Flyer out or something in the store in the area or something.
Newspaper article.
Yes, that's one of the things on my list, is to get, first of all, the graphic that describes how the debris is separated. That's going to be Wakulla News, and also any other information that we can have, and just get it out as fast as possible.
So right now, they just need to get it on the side of the road.
Yes, get it on the side of the road, separate out your vegetative debris from any construction, demolition type, 2x4s, plywood.
How about paint, tires?
Hazardous waste, I'm not sure about tires. I'll have to find out about that. But if you have paint, it also needs to be separated, and it's a different truck.
They got to pick up paint?
They do have a hazardous materials line item in their contract. We prefer that goes to Amnesty Day when we reschedule it. But if somebody puts it out, they're going to pick it up.
The citizens paying to pick up that paint, though?
No.
Okay, because when we have free Amnesty Days.
Right, and that's going to be rescheduled as soon as we work with Jefferson County on that. But we prefer that you don't. But if you absolutely have no other choice, they're going to pick it up.
Yeah, we'd prefer no paint.
No paint and chemicals, and if at all possible.
We're going to make one pass in around the county.
Now tell me again,
one pass.
Tell me again about this. To run it through DOT. What were you talking about that?
DOT will front the cost for the cost of debris removal. We'll use our contractor, our contract administration, all that stuff, and they will pay the contractor direct and seek reimbursement from FEMA.
Now, typically in a FEMA disaster, the county is responsible for 12.5%, if I'm right. Is that still the case?
Right now, no, 100%.
The memo we got says yes, for debris removal, that there is no local cost share.
That's excellent.
It is great, and it also applies to Liberty and Franklin, Gadsden, the other counties, because we're all fiscally constrained, so they're going to get some assistance there as well.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
When we do our PWs, maybe they'll waive that 12.5% too. That'd be nice.
We're expecting that to be expanded to include debris monitoring as well, but we haven't gotten that official guidance yet.
Any questions?
Thank you. Appreciate that.
As we said, one pass around the county, so get your stuff out. I'd also like to take this time to thank Mike King. Him and his crews. Mike tirelessly worked to get our roads cleaned up. He finally had to tell him to go home yesterday afternoon. made him go home because I could hear Brandy hollering over the phone.
My mother said that there was no way Ted Langston Road would be open in Smith Creek. She said, I always forget about Smith Creek, and it was wide open.
Yeah. I'd also like to thank Ned Nobles. And Ned, you want to give us a little update on where we stand and on our wastewater operations?
Last time we lost a truck. Did we lose any equipment?
No, we did
any
not.
damage? Okay.
We lost 2 piers and a bathroom
Yeah.
and a couple of toilets.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Ned Nobles, working water and wastewater for the county. Everybody got out of it safe. All our guys, no equipment lost, like we did in Irma. We started preparing Friday the 5th and we have 3 bypass pumps that the county owns. We rented an additional 6 to help those out because we knew that especially Panacea and Ocklawackee Bay was going to be a power issue after what we saw with the last 2 storms. So we de-energized all of Panacea and Ocklawackee Bay. We put out public notice that 6 p.m. the day before the storm, we were de-energizing all those stations, kind of like Talcon does to Shell Point, try and save all the electronics there. So after the storm, when power started coming back up, we mobilized after we got the all safe from Mike King that the roads were passable and pushed those pumps out all over the county. Most of them go down to Surf Road, Master Sands, and Panacea. And then found out now that we have 2 lift stations that are gone electronically. Saltwater rose over them and ate them up. And then lift station 7 on Blue Heron Way, lift station 34 on Jerry popped transformer there, and then lift station 14 on the very end of Master Sands on the beach. That one got pulled apart basically when the building got shifted by the water.
That's a little,
Yeah.
fiberglass grind.
Not a big deal there, but it's been capped off and abandoned in place. And then
That didn't spill either, did it?
no, sir. I mean,
I know
it didn't
when
have
I went down
anything
there,
in
the water was still pumping on the incoming water, but
it. Before we de-energized all of Panacea, we pumped it down, pumped everything forward to the plant.
Right.
And then I went out 2 hours before the winds went out Wednesday morning at 3 o'clock and did one more pump forward on the major lift station in Panacea, so that we were trying to mitigate any kind of spill.
right.
Station 8, right?
Right. And then lift station 1 on River Bend Road, it's had some electronic difficulties, but it nothing big. It's not like the other stations.
Make sure that if we get PWs on these FEMAs that we upgrade to, if we can,
Well,
different pumps.
what we're gonna do is actually turn that in as one of our mitigation projects in the future, is elevating all of our panels.
And let's get rid of those grinder pumps if there's any way to get rid of grinder pumps.
That's in the plan.
Exhaustive.
Because all that other, so we could say they all of a sudden rusted
Yeah.
during this storm, even though the stuff's been there for
Well, some of
years.
those, yeah, some are covered by insurance and some will be FEMA, so.
No major damage to the plant, new plant or the old plant. I'm sorry, what, sir?
No, just.
And then we've been working since we got the all clear Wednesday night. We pushed teams out Thursday morning at sunlight after the roads were clear, and we've been working every day since then. We split the weekend so that everybody'd have a chance to spend one day at their own house since they hadn't seen it yet. So that's all I have. If y'all have any questions.
Good job on the roads.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
I'm sorry, on the wastewater.
Yeah. Also on the roads, I was remiss to say, our fire and EMS crews, and FHP and the Sheriff's Department helped on getting some of the roads cleared initially as well. And, there was a great coordination effort that was spearheaded by some of our fire and EMS guys. They really did a great job.
I believe it was Jared, Jan, that started having the deputies carry a chainsaw with them, wasn't it?
So, but also, like I said, I want to thank Summerpell and Clyde, and they've worked their butts off. So has Brandy. Brandy's done a fantastic job prior to the storm and during the storm a little bit, and then afterwards she's kicked into high gear. So has Nanette. Nanette was always there on the phone. Debbie has helped out. as well, and Jessica has pumped information out as we can get it. One of the things that we found out is we're going to have a post-storm meeting on what we did right and what we did wrong and where we can improve, and there's a lot of areas where we can improve in our shelter, where we get our information out to our shelters and our few distribution centers, as well as we got to fix some problems with the sheriff's office, their internet, and get some fiber optics running there that's tied to our fiber optics. Our internet didn't go down. We could still, it went down at the office, but we could still use our phones, and our emails work. So we got to fix that. We know we've got a lot of stuff to do, but you know, the good thing is we all came through it safe, and just want to thank, but also I want to thank Ralph Thomas. Ralph, our chairman, he hung in there, was at the community center, constantly was on the phone with me. He went above and beyond what most people would do, really had. And the community should be proud of him. He stood up, he took his chainsaw. I talked to him during the storm. You know, I want to say, Ralph, you need to get your butt out of there. You're going to get killed. It was all over the county, helping people out selflessly then, and helped out through the weekend. Yesterday, he went to Liberty County and helped feed a bunch of people there. Didn't have to do that, but yet that speaks to the type of person he is, and just that was out of everything I've seen. Thank you, Ralph.
Good job, Ralph.
I appreciate that, but I'll say I'm just one link in a real strong chain, and our community stood up, and I mean they answered the call.
But it takes somebody to shake the chain to make it work, and you shook the chain.
I tell you something that I don't know that we've ever had the opportunity to see before, but at that community center, we would put out a need. We need something, and I promise you in 15 minutes it would show up. You know, I think if I'd asked for a new truck, it would have shown up. Mm-hmm. But absolutely everything, whether it be power strips, extension cords, we ran completely out of water. I made a post, and I mean 30 seconds later, 6 Jeeps roll up full of water. You know, I mean everything that we asked for, it showed up.
Well, and we coordinated well, standpoint of Gulf County. They needed fuel.
Yeah.
For their fire, EMS, and their sheriff's office. Ralph called me. I called a couple of contacts. Next thing you know, talked to the net. We all coordinated together, and we got them fuel and gas when the governor hadn't done it.
That's a big deal. The governor told them the day before
right.
They'd have it by dark. David got the trucks rolling.
So we helped our neighbors, but yet we helped ourselves and our citizens. But you know, that's what it's all about, and so anyway.
Absolutely. Well,
last time there was a couple of issues with communications in Wakulla Gardens. Did
we had communications, and right after the storm, with there was a couple of cell towers down. So
I mean about the water availability and where do we go to get water and all this other stuff.
So far we've overcome some of that. We still got a long way to go.
But the roads are open.
Yeah, roads are open, and we're in better shape. But the gardens wasn't hit as hard as they normally are. But we got a long way to go. We got a lot to improve. But our volunteers, I forgot your name.
Nicole. I was just about to acknowledge her as well.
The volunteers that came out in this county, they're still out there right now working. They're right down the way. You just can't say enough. Just
Nicole Scott. I never knew her before this week. I put out a call on Facebook, and I'm running 1,000 different directions, but I recognized that we needed something to mobilize at the community center. And I said, hey, you know, I can't do this, but I know if we put out the need, somebody will knock it out of the park. She knocked it out of the park. There's no two ways about it. She said, well, I'm not really from here. And I said, well, it doesn't matter because we're family now. We're family now, and you're not going to get rid of me because she's an engineer. She's got very good analytical skills. She put it together. She had a team of ladies that stood up with her. They were running spreadsheets. They were washing clothes for the linemen. They had 50 people on a list ready to take these clothes and go out and wash them. And the food, Grace Baptist. I almost hate calling out names because I know I'm going to miss a lot of people, but everyone showed up in the community. We had more food than we could possibly imagine. And so, you know, she put all that together.
Engineers are good people, aren't they?
Yeah.
We most certainly are.
So thank you, and all the team that helped you. It's just.
The work is not over.
Oh, absolutely.
We currently have 7 tractor trailer loads being shipped from work, let me know.
Yeah.
I need hands.
The need is there. We're getting calls from folks that simple things like, can someone come rake and clean up my yard for an elderly couple? You know, so if folks are willing to serve, definitely communicate that. And also if there's a need out there, we're going to wind this thing down so we don't need all these supplies that we have, but we want them to go to Wakulla County citizens if there's a need there. So people reach out to your neighbors and find out. Some folks won't ask and find out where the need is, and let's take advantage of this. And then if there's surplus, we'll send it to our neighbors to the west because there's absolutely the need that way.
There, absolutely.
No two ways about it.
That's something that, you know, we're going to need help. We're going to need help loading out vehicles because they're wanting to use more and more Wakulla County's distribution point, loading out to get over to our neighbors to the west. So we still need volunteers to help.
And I'd like to get Chris Doolin. He runs the Small County Coalition, which we're members of, and he's already working on some legislative issues that are going to relate to this. Chris, if you can give us a brief, anything you want to say about it, I appreciate it.
Well, I didn't intend to do anything tonight other than come by and say hello and how much the region is in shock. I mean, they're stunned. There will be long-term significant impact to the region. Property values will decrease. Many of these counties are fiscally constrained at 8, 9, and 10 mills. We need to take a look at that issue in terms of offsetting the decreased property values through a fiscally constrained offset. We have several fiscally constrained offsets. This would be one that we need to look at. There will be limited income in terms of points of sales that will impact this region. I know that during Hurricane Andrew, they established a Hurricane Andrew Trust Fund where they captured sales tax pre-Andrew, post-Andrew, generated almost $500 million over a 3-year period. So we've got some folks beginning to look at that. There's some question as to whether or not that was real significant, but I think it's certainly something the region should lay claim to. How it's distributed will be another issue. It's going to be difficult to quantify the loss of jobs and businesses and how they operate, but it's going to affect the local economy. Temporary and permanent relocation will affect housing and employment. And our school districts. Our school districts operate on a per student attendance formula. For those districts, I assure you that this district tomorrow is going to have new students at its doorstep. They just finished the student count for the second calculation of the FEFP. So we're going to have to look at how we can sustain those poor school districts to retain the pre-storm count so they can maintain the staffing and services even if those students aren't there, so that when we can get them back home, they have that. And we need to look at a supplemental allocation. If the counts were submitted already, who's going to show up? So I don't want to
know of any damaged schools right around us that we know for sure.
This school district participates in the Panhandle Area Education Consortium, and they are in a cooperative insurance coverage, and they're pretty much insured. They're going through an assessment. Yeah, I don't know specifically. I know Calhoun County was significantly impacted. The older school apparently did pretty well. The new school was hit pretty hard. So from a small county perspective, what we want to do is stay a play ahead of the next play. Where do we want to guide the conversation? And it's going to be sustaining, stabilization, and recovery. We've got our own legislative agenda. You receive substantial funding, as do all the small counties, from programs that were created by your legislators working together that weren't here prior to the Small County Coalition, by the way. I'm just going to say that for the record. And I do want to share that Wakulla County is looked to by your counterparts as leaders on preemptions, on unfunded mandates, on activities. Your administration is I don't know any personal issues going on, but on the side, I think, your staff, your general counsel, I constantly call them for how to handle an issue, and is this going to be a problem or not. But the region is devastated, and I think as far as the emergency management structure, action is at the local level. We've seen a lot of change at the Division of Emergency Management. We've seen a lot of human infrastructure change and procedural changes that some folks are being very polite about the concerns they have on processing. So one of the major issues is moving the claims a lot faster. I mean, there's millions of dollars in arrears on prior storms. So we've got a challenge, and we'll have an opportunity to talk to the new folks coming in, whoever they may be, about managing the division as well as relying on local government people. That's where the action is. So I've taken too much time. Commissioner Thomas, we are trying to keep other people out of the race for second VP. It's a new election coming up, and Ralph is in that. He's declared.
Today is actually the deadline.
Today is?
To file. And
Okay.
so if no one qualifies by today, it should be
You'll
without.
be in, and we've worked very closely with the Florida Association of Counties. It's a very strong organization, but we've been able to push the envelope a little bit from time to time. And if you ever hear anything bad about me, I want you to know there's two sides to the story, and I'm working for you, as others may well be. But I'm just saying, sometimes I can be a little irritating, but I'm doing it on your behalf. So anyway,
we appreciate it.
Good luck to you, and if there's anything we can do, we'll let you know.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Any further presentation? We're good. All right. Do we have
To approve consent?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Chuck, you have item number 1 pulled off
Yeah,
consent.
just, in the minutes, it had Jerry Moore being the one that recused himself about Lake Ellen and not me, so it just needs to be corrected.
Okay. Kelly, you got that? Very good.
Tab 10.
Hmm?
Tab 10 of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve
Second.
item number 1.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Hear none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right, so we will go into general business. We have 3 add-on items.
Sorry,
Sorry, we have an electronic.
Heather's having a issue over here. We would request board approval to waive the permit fees for homes that were damaged during the storm for a 30-day period. It would just be for homes
To
that.
approve.
Second.
Hold on.
And authorize reimbursement from the general fund to the building permit fund.
Motion and
Yeah.
second. Stand with that?
Yes.
All right. Any further discussion?
This is traditionally what we do.
This was not an agenda item, but if anyone from the public would like to speak, now would be the time. Come forward. You want to speak? And if you will, after you're done speaking, fill out a speaker card with Miss Patty.
Who provided the second on that motion?
Now, you're speaking on this item with the permits? If it's not, if you citizens to be heard, we'll do at the end of the meeting.
Sorry, I was trying to move trucks.
That's okay. That's all right. I'll remind you at the end.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I have a question. If you're reimbursing that from the general fund and we have surplus funds in the building fund, why don't we just use?
It has to be paid
Oh, it
from the
has to be
general.
paid. Good enough.
There's a state statute on point.
All right. Yep. Yep.
Makes
Anything
sense.
further?
Gotcha.
Further discussion, but we could still cut fees in the building department.
That's right. Next is, we would like.
Let's vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Go ahead.
Next is, we would request board approval to activate our $2 million line of credit with Ameris Bank. We do not anticipate having to use it at this point in time, and we will try not to, but just in case
Motion to
something
approve.
goes on, we need to have that ability.
We have a motion and a second. And again, any citizens like to speak on that, you can speak on this item as well. Seeing none, any further discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Final add-on item, Mr. Chairman, is pursuant to a request from the two cities, we would like the board to authorize the county to provide debris monitoring and removal within the cities for this storm. As you heard during awards and presentations, the state has agreed to pick up 100% of those costs, so there's not a cost issue. And I'd like you all to also authorize us to bring back an amendment to our interlocal to cover this, these provision of these services going forward. Your procured debris monitoring and removal contracts were done to include the cities, so
Make
we're
it part of the
covered.
motion.
Okay. Your second modified to reflect that. And again, any
Thought you were
citizens
done,
want to
Heather,
speak on
sorry.
that?
That's okay.
No citizens? Further discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. So that ends our general business. We have no public hearings tonight. We have one planning and zoning item, number 14.
Yes, this is a request for the board's approval for an application to be filed to close and abandon a portion of St. Ansbury Street, a portion of Oclotney Street, and a portion of the unnamed platted driveway, all contained within the Surf subdivision.
Motion to approve.
Staff is recommending that the board only approve portions of St. Ansbury and the unnamed platted driveway to be advertised for a future public hearing to consider and exclude Oclotney Street.
What?
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Which, Oclotney Street is, which one is, that's not the one, because you and I
It
talked about
fronts
it.
on the bay. Oclotney Street fronts on the bay. So based on comp plans policies that the county will not close or abandon any roadways that may provide access to the water, staff is recommending that Oclotney Street not be included in this abandonment.
Modify my motion.
Okay.
I thought we'd talked
Second as
about
well? All right. Mr. Paul Parker.
Good evening. I'm just here to answer any questions. I do have a copy of the large survey, but just briefly, I represent the sellers and the buyers of the property. There's 21 platted lots. They don't intend to develop 21 platted lots, so the abandoned roads, the roads they're asking to be abandoned are just in the way. They're truncated by ponds and canals. They don't lead from Surf Road to the water. And the only waterfront issue is there's the remnants of an old dock that they will probably seek a permit to try to rebuild, sort of like the Driftwood avenue to the east, where the houses are on one side and the people's docks are on the other side of the right-of-way. But the Bloodworths are actually here to answer any questions if you want. But
This will greatly reduce the density, Paul, right?
Correct.
21
There's
lots
21
down.
platted lots. Their intention is to build a single-family home and maybe divide down a property line to provide another single-family lot out of 3 acres on the water. So.
Very good. All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hear none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're new to our community, correct?
Correct.
Welcome to Wakulla County.
Thank you.
Good timing.
You got here in the middle of all the action.
And they showed up today. They didn't terminate the contract.
There you go.
We had some of those people stay at our house in Madison that was at Mexico Beach in Panama City, and they went back yesterday to steel destruction.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Horrible.
Well, welcome to Wakulla.
Thank you.
All righty, let's see, that ends our planning and zoning. We tabled the one commissioner agenda item, county attorney,
Nothing this evening.
county administrator.
I've said enough.
Citizens to be heard. Ms. Nicole Scott, come on down.
Nicole Scott, I live at 1652 Wakulla Aaron Road. I'm an engineer by trade. I work in Tallahassee, and I'm a member of Springtime Tallahassee. I've done a lot of civic duty in my life. I have responded to floods in Albany, Georgia when I was 13 years old. I have worked in an EF4 tornado zone in 2011 in Ringgold, Georgia. I have never been more disappointed in my life than I was in the community center on Sunday afternoon when 70 diehard Wakulla County residents who gave blood, sweat, and tears, food from their own homes, clothing off of their backs to other members, to their neighbors, to be forced out of the community center that very clearly belongs to Wakulla County because of some individuals who worked for an outside organization who were here to help. They did not help. They completely uprooted a grassroots response to help our neighbors. Now, you gentlemen, I've never seen y'all before. I'm not a political person. This man stood shoulder to shoulder with me for over 20 hours. We helped little old ladies out of their cars that had nothing. We clothed them. We fed them. We fed the Red Cross workers hot meals from my kitchen. I am very disappointed. I am an engineer by trade. In fact, I'm an industrial engineer. My background is logistics and supply chain management. I do not want to be a part of the problem. I wish to be a part of the solution. I am volunteering my time, my resources, my skills to work with Wakulla County because, guys, this will happen again. We have got to take care of ourselves. We need to be on the ground running immediately. At this very moment, there are 7 tractor trailers loads of resources being relocated because the National Guard is leaving this area. They are moving into Gulf County and Bay County. We have had our citizens going into Gulf County and Bay County and being turned away. We don't need anything. We're good. We don't need anything. We're good. They came to the 4-H center tonight. I was standing there. A guy pulled up. He says, I've got MREs and water. I've been to Panama City. They won't take them. What do I do? So we are relocating that information, the supplies, into the rural areas that are off the coast. And that's what's happening with Wakulla County citizens. I invite every person in this room, their neighbor, their brother, their cousin, their sister. We're apparently all local and related. I'm not. I invite you to all come and help. We need your help. There are Boy Scouts, there are 4-Hers, there are FFA kids. The children in this community are working harder than the adults at this point.
You bring it on into a close for me?
I'm done. I won't help.
Thank you. Y'all show up to the extension office and give her a hand if you can.
Thank you. What's her point of?
I have spoken to all 3 of the Red Cross representatives, and I have expressed my concern, my frustration. I don't think none of that is on the shoulder of these 3 folks. They're here to solve the problem, and I think we're in agreement that there were some issues. It came down to, I think, some turf wars of this is a Red Cross center, but it's also we had an outpouring. Go to my Facebook page and look at the videos and look at the photos and the timeline of everything that happened. Red Cross has explained to me that they want to resolve the problem and they want to work with us. I was so mad yesterday that definitely the angriest I've been since I've been a county commissioner over what happened there. Some of it I think could have been de-escalated and worked out if we had the right people in place at the time. I don't think there was any reason to kick those folks out. There's some things that did not happen appropriately. Now, when I was there, it was good, and that's what was kind of frustrating, that we were plugging along, and I personally went and got the Red Cross volunteer said, we need a radio so we know what's going on. I went to Walmart and said, hey, they need a radio. They gave us a radio, and I took it to them. They gave us a list. When they got here before the supplies got here, and so, we were trying to see what their needs were. But I think we might have overwhelmed their system when we did that, and so we need to look at that. These folks... Yes, ma'am, absolutely. These folks have agreed to meet with me and the sheriff and David Edwards, and let's figure out some lesson learned and how we can not do this again. And it could be that, I always think we can co-locate, we can work together. Maybe we need to put some tape across the floor and say, well, that's your shelter, this is our shelter, or whatever the case may be. But please.
So as Randall and I were discussing, and I'm sure that y'all will want to look at the agreement, and you probably have seen the agreement. Host shelters they do have rules and regulations of what can be co-located, and I know I explained it to whoever I've talked to, you and I know David and maybe Randall, but our volunteers are that. They are volunteers, and they receive specific training. And if it's shelter or if it's emergency response vehicle, we call those ERVs, feeding, they get like a manual, and that manual is their Bible. And if it says that it's supposed to be a certain way, then by golly, they're going to follow it that way. Not always using common sense, not always backing up and saying, can we have a discussion about this and talk to something? And Ralph and I both agree that I think part of the problem, or the biggest problem, was some of the folks, both from the county and from Red Cross, made some decisions and choices that weren't theirs to make. And they should have escalated it up, gotten with David, gotten with Randall, gotten with someone, and our folks should have gotten with us before those conversations were made. Because technically, when you have a host shelter and you've got clients in there, you don't co-locate. We don't bring in another distribution center. We don't do that because you've got clients to protect. You know, they want their privacy. They want their, just like we don't let reporters in our shelters. You know, we keep. These are people that are already in crisis mode, and so we want things as comfortable as they possibly can be for them. Now, granted, this is a little different. We only had one person at the shelter at the time, so it does seem a little bit common sense. You've got a great big old building, you know, why would you have it just for one person? Well, as we're seeing, even though I was trying my best to go ahead and get that person squared away and out of the shelter today so that the community center could be used specifically for a distribution center or whatever we wanted to use it for. Right now. Well, so no, that's what I was saying. So people are coming back. It's growing again.
I think we were high as 10, maybe 10.
Yeah, and you know, and we talked. I think you and I talked, and I know Randall. We talked with Randall on when we decided to open it. Of course, normally we open a shelter in Wakulla County. This is one of our go-to shelters.
During prior to the storm, you're saying?
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Prior to this, this is one of our evacuation centers. However, the schools here were only, I think, rated up to a Cat 2. And plus, we were all worried to death about surges. You know, we have a house there on the Ochlockonee River. It got at least 6 inches, and it's higher. You know, so I mean, we were worried about surge. Everybody was, and so that's why we didn't have what we're calling evacuation centers now, because we're really trying to get people to understand the difference in a shelter, a host shelter, which is what we have now, and an evacuation center. Evacuation center is a safe place to come. It's a lifeboat. It's not a cruise ship. You're not going to have any nets on your pillows. You're probably not even going to have a pillow or a cot or a blanket in an evacuation center. Whereas now we're moving into host shelters, and you're still not going to have a net on your pillow, but you probably will at least have a cot and a blanket. And but yeah, there were issues. But I mean, guys, we've been partners for a long time, and so we'll work through them. We'll get through them. We want to work with our community volunteers, Nicole. Y'all are incredibly important. You sound like you'd be an amazing Red Cross volunteer. You know, we need that. We want that. We all need each other to be able to be together. Y'all talked about unfunded mandates. That's who we are. We are mandated by Congress to do what we do, to assist in disaster, but it's an unfunded mandate. So I totally feel your pain on that. But do any of you have any questions? Or Nicole, I'm happy to answer any other questions for anybody.
Well, and I'll say that for the most part, everything went great. And then, you know, I call it battle fatigue, you know, and because the volunteers, Ms. Kelly Kraft is on the board of directors. She came in and saw the operation, and we got a lot of feedback from the Red Cross that they have never seen a community stand up like we did. And it was wonderful. It was a great thing to see, and I think it's something that we need to continue doing. We just have to figure out how to exist with each other and make sure, because really, you know, I told I think I told all of you that this is a matter of taking care of our citizens, and we have people in need, people that were hungry. I told her I can't eat red tape. You know, I can't feed.
And you can't eat a thermometer. Yeah, I told him I was going to quote him on some of those things.
Red tape, but I can feed them, you know, a pan of pulled pork this day. Mm-hmm. You know, we had people trying to throw out the food because they didn't think it was you know.
It didn't meet the right temperature thing again. I'm telling you, they get that.
Had some challenges. That this mindset. Is not Red Cross food. This is Wakulla County Church food. You know, and so there was definitely some friction and some problems there that we need to resolve.
Well, and as some of you know, my roots in this county go back to 1853. I don't know if the Moore goes with council Moore, but I'm a council.
Oh no, he's not.
I'm not the same Moore. I'm
okay.
from Smoky Mountains.
Anyway, so I am incredibly proud Wakulla County and the effort and the fact that you're going over and helping some of our other communities that are not getting, they're not getting the national attention, they're not on the news, they're not getting the 18-wheelers and the truckloads of stuff moving in.
Yeah.
I will say, however, and y'all probably already know this, that we've received notice, and it's from the government top on down, to not send things into Panama City. And I'm going to add that probably not too much into Gulf County either, because they're inundated. The people don't have anywhere to take this stuff. I mean, they do not have homes to go back to. So other than water and food and emergency supplies, that's really all they're wanting right this minute. For parts of Panama City, man, but it's Panama City itself, the town, is what is devastated. In Port St. Joe, we actually had people that we were able to get into Mexico Beach, because that's very restricted on whether they're letting you in at all. I talked to the president of the People South Bank there, totally destroyed. He said everybody's home I know is destroyed in Mexico Beach, and people think of Mexico Beach as a resort kind of town, but we all know better. We know that there's people that live there, just like we. Anyway, I'm preaching to the choir there, because y'all know I get a little bit on my soapbox, because I'm like, guys, this is not just second homes we're talking about. These are people, and they're our residents, they're our Wakulla residents, they're our Franklin County residents, and so I thank you for reaching out and helping take care of other people.
And I appreciate you coming, and you all have agreed to let's meet and let's unpack this, and lessons learned, and let's figure out how we move forward with it.
Yeah, and one of the things David reminded me to let's talk about, we need satellite phones everywhere. We need radios. We need to go back to the old hand radios, because I'll tell you that's the only thing that worked. We still, Gulf and Bay still don't have the communications up. So we need to, in our after action, all of our after actions, we got to go back to some of the old ways.
Yeah, well, thank you.
But yeah, so let's schedule it. Just let me know.
Very good.
Thank you.
Good. And if I could speak to, she said that a lot of the efforts aren't going into these counties, and we saw that in Liberty. A lot of, the National Guard troops there, they have nothing but MREs. They don't even, they're not even getting hot meals to those guys. And so everywhere we went, we saw the need. I was standing on the runway in the Bluntstown Airport yesterday. There's not a building standing anywhere. There's nothing. It's all completely flattened. And I was involved in what's called Operation Airdrop. So we're there, and here comes a little single-engine plane, and then another one. We landed 8 single-engine planes that are just absolutely full of toilet paper, and baby food. And I said, man, this is the most expensive toilet paper in the world, because they're paying all this aviation fuel to get it there. But then on the other side of the runway, I see 2 four-wheel drive trucks and an open bay trailer. And so these guys are coming, and we're all unloading this plane. So I get to talking to these guys. Well, what's your name? And they told me their name, and I said, well, I know your name, And these guys were all from Wakulla County. So I'm over here, dealing with the planes. They're over there taking the stuff in. Every one of them from Wakulla County, and they were just there, just doing it. And so, to me, it's very encouraging that we rely on government, but when it comes down to it, it comes down to people. It comes down to us filling in the gap and making things happen. And I saw that all over the place. We're also working with a group right now called No Town Left Behind. They're set up in Tallahassee with Operation Barbecue, I think it's called. They've got trucks and cookers, and they're pumping out tens of thousands of meals a day. They're about to move them into Gulf County. So if they can get in, they're not worried about the logistics and the supply. If they can get in, they're going in, and they're bringing it. Whether they got to fly, we had Operation Airdrop, was looking for a boat. I guess Cape Sandblast got cut off and is now an island. And so there were people trapped there. Well, we got some helicopters and had people dropping supplies into Cape Sandblast. And so, it's just a matter of all of us pulling all the resources and figure out how to help people.
I do want to tell you, and I'll send this information to you, David, if you can get it out to everybody, and then make sure you just reminded me that all of our counties need to know where the shelters are in our other counties. So when you do run into people doing things, that you've got a place where you can tell them. We've got 2 in Calhoun County, we've got 2 in Gulf County, we've got 3 in Bay County. And then we've got the one-offs, like Jackson County, there's a big one in Mariana. And so we've got shelters throughout the Panhandle. One in Leon County still open. To our east, all of our counties to our east fared really well, even Taylor County, which I was worried about Steinhatchee and it flooding, but it wasn't too bad. But we'll get that information out to you so you know where the shelter locations are, and you can refer anybody that you get. And any of our shelters can come in and eat and get whatever they need there. You don't have to be a resident. You don't have to be staying in the shelter. Some of us, thank you for feeding our folks here. We partner with Salvation Army. Most of the time we feed our own shelters, but Salvation Army is a huge partner of ours across the country. So,
Well, if you run into any problems, let's break those log jams.
Absolutely.
Let us know. And
Well, and I passed your information on because we were getting a need for diapers and for formula, and I sent there and I wrote it. In fact, I gave it to the guy that he's working with there in our external relations. I'm like, here's a contact. They've got diapers, they've got formula, they got baby food, and if you can get it immediately, because we can get all that stuff, but so much, y'all know the whole procurement line, and sometimes you've got stuff sooner than others, and this was almost more like a Katrina kind of disaster as far as where you could get places. You cannot get into some places, and where you've got infrastructure damage, and I think what Franklin County we're going to find has got one of the biggest infrastructure, more so than if you've been over there and you probably saw it. This is like a tornado, as opposed to a hurricane. And something I've said enough, but y'all call me.
People want to help. They want to help, and they don't know how to help. Wells Fargo, I spoke to them. They have a truckload of supplies coming from Walmart. I don't know that we're going to need it here, but we'll have it, and we can reroute it somewhere else. I had people that grew up here that live in other parts of the country, and they called and they said, "That's my home," and they're sending things through Amazon. They just want to help. So if there's a need, let us know, and we'll communicate.
Well, and it's like this is a much larger scale, but it's just like what happened June 24th when we had the fires down at East Point. I have the entire Panhandle came together and really overwhelmed. With stuff, that community, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen with this. We're going to have a ton of stuff. Hopefully it'll still be good and ready when the residents are able to have a place to put it.
Right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you guys for what you do.
That ends our citizens to be heard discussion items. Mike?
Just a quick note about, I just despise when citizens come in and, I'm going to just say this, and drop a crap bomb and run. That bothers me. And it's an election season. If you got issues like that, take it to the press and let them air it out. But I just hate that we use this platform for political, and I don't condone anything like that. But let me tell you, at the end of the day, I'm not perfect. None of us sitting up here are perfect. And I bet if we aired all of our dirty laundry, it probably wouldn't look any better than any one members on this board.
Mike, we used to have a tradition that the last board meeting before the election, we didn't allow any politicking up there. I don't know, do we still have that in effect, Ralph?
To me, it's tough because we work for the public, and if they want to speak, it's very hard because if we have the ability to limit what they say, where do we draw that line?
Well, we do have guidelines, don't we, David? Did you review those?
Yeah, and this doesn't quite fit. So.
We generally limit it to profanity or violence or disruption. Other than that, you know what? I never knew what a bad person I was until I got elected. Now I hear it from time to time, and so be it.
I just wanted to say that I voiced my opinion, but everybody else got an opinion. But it just bothers me. And all the years I've been doing politics, it never goes away, and it never will. But that's enough about that.
Well, it seems to me it also generally backfires.
Yeah.
Usually because nobody likes to see that, and we all consider the source.
Well, I understand. One more comment about the debris pickup. To clarify it one more time, I'm saying it to the public out on TV land, is that please get it out now, because when that truck comes around and makes the pass, sounds like probably next week, and you get one time. If you pull it up after that, it's going to be laying by your house on the side of the road, and nobody's going to pick it up. So make sure you start getting it out now, so that when the time comes next week, it gets picked up. And I know I talked to Mike about, maybe you mentioned this a while ago, about having some better communications for the road department. Can we talk about that, how to help them? Not now, but to work on
we got all
trying to get them some help to better communicate, because they're important when that first 24 hours after the storm. So anyway, that's all I have.
I see, if it's my time, I see a couple here that just came in today, the first time I've seen them at a county board meeting. Do you folks have anything you'd like to say?
With now there's property up there.
Come on up to the microphone, because this is the first time you've been here. So you need to tell us why you're here.
Well, we thought there was some zoning. My niece is having her 3 acres or so. She, understand she's applied to have it rezoned.
And we had to continue that to the last meeting because the planning commission meeting had to be canceled because of the weather. And so that'll come back to us at the next meeting.
It'll probably going to be the second meeting in November.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
So we just came.
You got to see government in action. Yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
We always like a smile, so you're always welcome back.
Thank you.
Just a little bit about our commercial folks in the county. When we have a disaster like this, the governor freezes gas prices, which is a really good thing. The other side of the coin is the distributors are not frozen as to the price that they can charge the gas stations. So just for instance, I know that Rockies has had 25 or 30 cars for 3 days, almost 24 hours a day. He loses money on every gallon that he sells. So there's a benefit of having someone like that, but he loses money on every gallon that he sells because the governor has capped what he can sell the money for, sell the gas for. A little bit about our oysters. It would appear that we were coming up to being able to sell maybe 100,000 oysters a week, which we were just growing slowly. I don't know how that is affected right now, but I do know that one farmer lost 400 cages, and that's taken him years to develop, but he lost 400. So it's a tough business. It's not like just going out and taking them off the bottom. So I know that we had a 12-foot surge. So when you're talking about how much water did we have, I live on an island, and I had 6.5 feet underneath my house. I was totally surrounded by water. I was out in the ocean, but we had
Gary's Ark.
We had 6.5 feet, and my house. I would like to say thank you to Fraser Martin. He built my home, and it's pretty much like a fort. And it was Fraser no longer is a builder, but I'll never forget that he did such a great job for me. Also, Mr. Crum had of Crum's Bait and Tackle. He had a friend over in Port St. Joe, a business acquaintance that lost his trucks and so forth. So Mr. Crum took his trucks over to that person and delivered them to him, and he said it took him forever to get there. He took different ways of getting there, but it's really people helping people. So anyway, that's all I got to say.
I've probably spoken too much tonight, but I have one more story that I want to share, and maybe we'll write all this stuff down. Saturday night, about midnight, I got home after a long day and just ready to decompress a little bit, and I got a text, "Hey, are you up?" So I called my buddy back. "Yeah, I'm up." He said, "I need a truck big enough to move 3,000 meals by 9:30 tomorrow morning. Can you do that?" I said, "Oh, man, you know."
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know it. Well, it's going to Liberty County. Those guys need it. So I'm thinking, well, who do I know? So every day I ride down 319, and there's a big moving truck there with Susan Jones and her team, Blue Water Realty. And I said, maybe that'll work. I said, "Susan, hey, are you up?" She called me, "Yeah, what's up?" And I told her about it. And she kind of got emotional on the phone when I told her what we were doing and where we were going. She said, "You do know that's my hometown, right?" I said, "Hey, the Lord works in mysterious ways," just made that connection for us. So she said, absolutely. She loaned us the truck. About 1 a.m., I got another text. "We need 3,000 serving trays for this." It fell through. We don't have any way to feed these folks. I'm like, man, haven't we done enough for today? But the need is great, So I put another text out there and said, "Hey, I gotta get some sleep. I don't have time to comb every store." And within minutes, I'm on it. And these are people that I don't know. I've never met some of these people. They're like, I'm on it. And they shopped through the night. I got about maybe 4 or 5 hours sleep Saturday night, but when I got up in the morning, I started checking my phone. I got 2,500 here. I got 500 here, and all that started coming together and started dumping it at the community center. Family Coastal Restaurant, they gave me a huge supply. Not only that, they gave me cups, they gave me utensils, they gave me some damaged cans of pineapple juice, just all kind of stuff. And I got to talking to him. He lost 2 restaurants in the storm. 2. And the man still had enough heart and compassion to pull this stuff together when he's trying to rebuild. He's in the ditch, and now he's helping someone else get out of the ditch. So that all came together, and we managed to feed those folks by lunchtime. I was on the way over there, and they said, hey, the only restroom around, we're going to have 3,000 people, the only restroom is in the 911 center. The sheriff's not going to let anyone go in the center. I said, yeah, that makes sense. He said, can you get us some portable toilets? I'm like, maybe. And we started calling. I got a hold of Talquin portable restrooms, and they sent 4 toilets there that showed up before we got there at no charge. So literally everything that we asked for, it just showed up and came together. So we've got more of that that's needed, and more than that that's going to come. It's like North Florida has been put on hold right now, and we're all in survival mode. But everybody is loving on each other and taking care of each other, and that's what we're supposed to do. So sometimes we need a reminder like that.
Excellent.
Yep, that's all I
The only thing I wanted to mention is we didn't have a Cat 3 hurricane shelter here in the county, and I think we need to be looking at what we can do to make that happen.
Absolutely. I'd say definitely when we get a new school, we probably need that to be Cat 4, Cat 5.
I just wanted to, again, compliment especially the road department for their response. Ralph, you were running for second vice president, right? If you do have an opponent, how do we actually vote for you?
You would have to attend the conference.
You have to attend the conference?
Yep, in November in Tampa.
You can't do it by proxy or nothing?
No. But today is the deadline to file, and the last conference that I just went to, there were 4 or 5 people that had full intentions of running, and I met with them face to face, and we talked about strategy, and we talked, hey, I'm in. I want to make sure that we have a rural county represented on that board, and the rest of them were not rural county people, so I let them know that we have rallied the rural counties, and we're going to vote for whether it be me or someone else. And so we managed to work that out, and they're all standing down, and they're actually supporting me. And so, maybe I'll get an opponent. I'll probably know by tomorrow if anyone filed, and if not, it's just automatic done deal. Won't need to
They have
vote
been
about
known to sign up on the last day.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
Yep. I was going to say something else, but I won't.
Yep.
I'm done. Motion adjourned.
All right. We'll stand adjourned. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Chuck, I'll try to remember.